Afternoon, designers. In this lesson, we're going to look at some basic understanding of file directory and how to open up your Rhino program and save a file. Okay, this might be a little redundant for some of you. If that's the case, you can always just skip ahead to a part where you're maybe unfamiliar. But the objective of this lesson is to familiarize yourself with how your computer operates Rhino and some of the very basics. Okay. So the first thing that I want to draw your attention to is the file path here. So I can save my files in a number of different places. The first, I can save it on my OneDrive, which is here. You see it has my name. It says Alfred State College. And that's pretty useful for me because I can save my files here. And as long as I'm connected to the internet, it will update that file so that I can access it from multiple computers or even my smartphone if I have the OneDrive app downloaded. Obviously, for Rhino, that doesn't really work because I don't know of any app that will actually run Rhino, but you get the idea. You can access your files there. But for this exercise, I'm just going to use my home directory here. So I'm going to click on my Windows, and if you click on your Windows, you might see something similar to this, depending on kind of how your computer is set up. And if you click on users, you'll find there's sort of a list of places that you can save things. I'm not the administrator of my computer actually, because it's a college computer. So I'm just going to click on my name here. And then you can see that there are even more options here. All right. Generally, I like to save things to documents. You can save them to your desktop, which is actually what we see in the background here. So if I click on that, there are no files here because I actually don't save anything. So there's no specific file saved there. But I like to put things in documents, and that's just what works for me. So the first thing that I highly recommend you do is let's just go ahead and create a folder for this semester. So I'm going to call it Autumn 2024. Okay, that's usually the first step that I do. And I'm going to double click on that. And I'm going to click on New Folder again. And I'm going to create another one for this course, ARC 1184. Okay, I'm going to hit Enter. And you could even create another folder here. Let's say you've got another class. For me, I have another class, so I'm going to call it ARC 3104. Okay. Now, the next thing I want to do is I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to click on New Folder, even now. Okay, one more folder, and I'm going to create. Let's call this Rhino Files. Okay, and I'm just going to do that. I'm also going to create another folder because I'm going to save this video. Oops, let's just click on back here. All right. And if you didn't write the name, that's fine. You can always click on it and click on it again. Don't double click because it'll open it. But if you just click, wait, click again, then I can name that to, let's call this video tutorials. Okay. So that's where I'm going to save this video. But I'm going to save all my Rhino files to this file here, okay? So that's the very basics. Now, this is what's called your file directory up here, and that's sort of important, because when you go to save something, it's important to remember where you saved it. And if you're not sure, if you forgot to check where to save your file when we go to open this Rhino program here, don't worry, because we can have a look at other ways to maybe find where you saved it, okay? So that being said, let's go ahead and open Rhino. I'm running Rhino 7 because that's what my license is licensed for. Okay, but you might have Rhino 8, which I highly recommend that you just get the latest version. But if you run Rhino 7 or even 6, that's okay. It'll look very, very similar to this. Okay. Now, when you open it up, this is what you're going to see. And these are templates. I don't really worry about these too much. But generally, I will run large objects, feet, because that's generally how we design in architecture in America. Okay, so I'm just going to click on that. Again, if you don't do that, there's a way to change that, and we can have a look at that shortly. Okay. Now I'm just going to open this up, the full screen here, and you're going to see this. And this might be pretty intimidating for you, but don't worry. You're going to get familiarized with the workspace here, and pretty soon it's going to become second nature. So right away when you open Rhino up, you're going to see these 4 windows. And this is sort of, the default here. And that's very useful because we can actually make something in 3D space in our perspective mode here, which I can orbit around. And I'm using a mouse here to orbit. And if I hold my right click down, it will orbit my view. Okay. If I do the same right click hold in my top view, you'll note that it'll just sort of pan and sort of slide my view up and down, left and right, that type of thing. Same with front and right. Okay, perspective is the only one that will orbit. And there are other ways to navigate in perspective mode. But the first thing that I want to do before we get into any of the views is let's just go ahead and save this file, right? That should be the first thing you do. You create a new file. You're going to save that file somewhere. So let's just click on File and let's go File, Save As. Okay. And here we want to remember where that directory is. Okay. So you'll note that the default, for some reason, is just defaulting to my OneDrive, and that's okay. But I want to put it where we created that new file folder. So I'm going to click on Windows, Users, click on my name, Documents, Autumn 2024. Under here, I'm going to put it under Rhino Files. Now, this is where you name the file, okay? Generally speaking, I don't really care how you name your Rhino files because you're never actually going to deliver a Rhino file to me. You're always going to be delivering a PDF. But for this, let's just call this tutorial 1. And I'm just going to put an underscore and I'll just call this setup. Okay. And generally, if it's just a Rhino file that you want, don't touch this, but this is the format here. And if you click on this, you'll see a whole load of different things that you want to, that you can potentially save your project as. But don't worry about those right now, okay? Rhino 7 for me, or Rhino 8 if you're running Rhino 8, that's what you want. And we're just going to hit save, okay? Now, if I go back to that file browser window, and if I click on that, you'll see that it has actually saved that file there. And it will say the last time that it modified that file, okay? So in this case, 3 p.m., all right? So that's the very basics, okay? That's sort of learning how to save your file. If for whatever reason you forgot to set your file destination under Save As, don't worry. You can always, it will always remember the last place you put a file. So in that case, if I'm like, oh shoot, I forgot where it is, let's just click on Save As. And you'll see that it actually has gone here to this window. And see the directory here, Documents, Autumn 2024, ARC1184, Rhino files. And if you still can't find where the heck it is, you can always save another copy, but you can imagine that if you keep sort of flubbing that part and saving and saving and saving, that you're going to have a lot of stray files just kind of kicking around your computer somewhere that you're eventually going to have to find and clean up. Otherwise, you're going to run out of disk space. Okay? So I'm just going to hit cancel because I saved it correctly the first time. All right? So like I say, we have these 4 windows now. Now that we've got the program open, and we're going to eventually want to start populating it, but let's not get carried away. This is just about familiarizing yourself with the workspace, okay? So by using the roller ball on my mouse, I can zoom in and out in the top, front, right views, okay? And same with in perspective. You'll note that it will zoom in and out around where my cursor is pointing, okay? So if I wanted to zoom out there, zoom over there, you will see that it's sort of following where I want to zoom in, okay? Same thing with here, right? Okay. Now, the other thing is we can change these viewports, and we can just click on this drop-down arrow here. And if we go set view, you can see that we can change our top view to maybe we want bottom view. Maybe for some reason we want to look at like a ceiling plan or something like that, or underneath an object that we created. We could set it to bottom. We could also set it to something else. We've got bottom, front, right, and perspective. Maybe we want a left and right. So we can click on the set view and go there. Okay, so now we've got left, front, and right. In which case, these might represent elevations when we actually start representing our work in orthographic projection. Okay. The other thing to note when you want to navigate, so in the instance of what I'm doing right now, I'm working on my laptop. And so these windows are actually really small. And this is going to put a lot of strain on my eyes. And I know this from experience because I've done architecture school. So I'm going to probably want to work, generally, I work in perspective mode. But the same goes for all of these windows. If I want to just work in perspective, I'm going to double click on that. And you can see it's going to go full screen. And now I can zoom in and out and I can orbit around. If I hold shift down and right click, you'll see it drags the sort of the space around. Okay. And if I want to get out of that, all I have to do is just double click the perspective and there it goes. It brings me back sort of home here. Okay. The other thing that you will note, and this is important for when we actually start creating geometry, is what kind of view your settings are in. So the default for Rhino is wireframe. This takes the least amount of graphics processing power for your computer. Okay. But you'll note that when we start creating geometries, that it's going to make things a little bit different. But I'm just going to make you aware of that now. And I'm going to wrap this video up. And the next video is going to be about, we're going to create some basic geometries. I'm going to show you how to navigate the space and maybe even alter some of those geometries. Okay, thanks for watching.